Phil, there are 11 FBS coaching jobs open. 11. It's October 20th. Why?
Well, I think we all know there's more money being spent. Players are being paid. And, the sense of urgency to win and be relative has been ramped up probably times of 100 over the last 10 years. Yeah, and the money's there. So they're going to spend it.
Phil, if you were Pat Kraft, would you have fired a coach who goes 10-2 every year? Or was that maybe a little bit too rash because of a 3-game losing streak?
Paul, I truly believe that right now, and I don't know Pat Kraft. I've heard he's a good guy, but ADs are becoming too much like the fans, and they listen to the fans. And, when people are in charge of multi-million-dollar athletic departments and, they're getting these now the multimedia, the between X and shows like this, everybody's got an opinion, and they get just absolutely worn out with the negativity of what's going on. Now, this is a guy that was one drive, 2-minute offense away from playing for the national championship, and it's beyond me how they can fire him. Now maybe there were some underlying things, and maybe the things they didn't like, but nothing that they could fire him with cause. So, I think it's just a sign of the time. But let's rest assured, James Franklin's going to be fine. He's got $50 million. So it's not like he's going to be, he's not going to be on food stamps.
No, he is not. He's not going to be asking for change on the corner or anything like that. That's for sure. Could you see a scenario where he just slides into Gainesville here pretty soon or somewhere? I mean, he's going to get another job rather quickly. I would think he's got to be like the top of the totem pole of the availabilities out there. Because here's the thing, Coach, 11 openings, they got to find 11 coaches from somewhere, and there's not like a cavalcade of just young guys that are on the assembly line all ready to go fill out all of these jobs.
I think I told Smokey this. I've had like 3 different search firms whom I'm familiar with have called me and started asking me about guys. And I think what you're going to see, Craig, is this. I think James Franklin will end with a job, but I do believe this. There's fits. I don't think James would be a fit, just like I don't think Brian Kelly's a fit at LSU. I don't think James would be a fit there. I think LSU and Florida and those jobs sort of need guys, that have sort of know what they're getting into. I didn't feel like Billy was either, so it sort of panned out that way. I can see, the Lane Kiffin train going to Gainesville. I think that would be something, be much like the old days of when Spurrier was there. But I think what you're going to see, and a guy told me this today, he said, you're going to see a lot of young coaches get opportunities because it's going to be a fallout from not just 11 jobs. There's going to be 30 or 40 different jobs because of the volume of everybody moving. So it's really going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, you have the merry-go-round in a way. All right, so as a guy who's been a head coach, you've been a coordinator, you've been an assistant coach, all the way to when you got out of college as a GA. When a coach is fired, the head coach is fired, what are the contracts usually like for everybody else on staff, and is there a buyout for all of them too?
When I first started, the big thing, and Charlie McClendon was back in the day of the AFCA football, everybody, and Grant Taft did this. He tried to get ADs to make June to June contracts. And what that did, Smokey, that gave you 4 or 5 months of a cushion if you were fired. Now, as it's progressed, a lot of coaches have gotten, multi-year contracts. I mean, not just coordinators, but position coaches. So you're talking about a lot of money. I know this, at LSU, I think this is correct. If Brian Kelly was fired, of course, they're going to have to pay him $50 million, but I believe his defensive coordinator has a 3-year contract at $2.2 million a year. So, and I think every coach on the staff has a multi-year contract. So I think it varies at the school and really how you've been doing.
Phil, you got out at the wrong time, my friend.
You know what though, Paul? I don't think I would have the patience anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, you got too many ADs that have become fans, and if you have a bad game, if you have a scenario what's happened to Jane Franklin, I mean, it just shatters right before your eyes.
What did you think about Texas and Kentucky this week? I've been wondering about this since that game went down. Look, Texas's defense is not going to change. They're really good, but their offensive line isn't good. I saw some of their PFF grades. One of them graded out at a 14. He just got mauled. And Kentucky just doesn't have as much talent. Texas was able, I think, to get by on the fact that right at the end of the game when they needed it in overtime, they had enough athletes to do that. But this is not what Sark thought he was bringing to the table this year.
I think it starts with the quarterback. We have to be honest. At this point right now, Arch has not shown anything to let any of us know that he's going to be the guy. I think Texas is reevaluating that position, number one. I know they've had some injuries on the offensive line. They've had injuries at running back. They're absolutely, you're right, they're still good on defense. But on offense, they're not they're a shell of what they were last year. And I get a kick out of it, and you guys remember this. The quarterback that's with the Dolphins, everybody said, Art should have been playing. Art should have, we're finding out that there's a reason why he was playing most of the time.
Quinn Ewers, yeah.
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
And coach, that actually leads me right into this. Texas Tech on Saturday, the big game at Arizona State. All the talk is, will Sam Leavitt play for the Sun Devils? And then we find out Baron Morton's not playing for Tech, but a lot of people thought that his backup should have been starting anyways. And I said at the start of the show, I said, I think October 18th is going to be Baron Morton Appreciation Day because everybody learned how much they actually do need him and how much he matters. And just what were your thoughts? I mean, another special cooked up by Kenny Dillingham and company, but your thoughts on just kind of the ramifications and the way that played out?
I'm really good friends with the defensive coordinator at Arizona State. And I'm telling you, they were motivated after the Utah fiasco, and that they were motivated. And I thought Brian Ward did a great job defensively in defending this quarterback. And I think the kid's good. But I think that you look at the game, Arizona State was coming. I mean, they had been stung. They were mad, got their quarterback back, their receiver and quarterback. And my wife and I were watching the game. We have our daughter and son-in-law went to Tech, and they're avid. And they said, all right, we just won the game. And my wife looked at me and said they might have scored too fast. And they sure did. And you just saw it wasn't that Tech didn't do good things on that drive defensively. They just executed. I mean, Tyson and Leavitt, I mean, they were a hard combination to stop. And it was a big win for ASU.
Phil, you were always usually coaching somewhere, but did you ever or have you ever experienced Utah BYU?
I played at both places. And,
okay.
But I've never I know that both coaches are close. And I think that, it's a rivalry. I would put it in the comparison of A&M and Texas, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. It's a fierce rivalry.
Well, it's interesting because Kalani Sitake, there's still a lot of work to be done. And that was, like I said, you feel sore the day after if you just watched that game.
Oh.
What are your thoughts about Cincinnati and what Scott Satterfield's done with that team?
I really like their offensive, what they're doing. I think they're still suspect defensively. I say that, and I know I have a couple of guys that are friends of mine coaching there, and they're work in progress, and they feel like they're getting better, which they are. You know, they very easily could have lost to Kansas at KU. It was a shootout. But yeah, I think they've done a great job. And I think you look at the SEC and the Big 12, it's going to come down to the wire because everybody, throw Colorado in there, throw Kansas State, they threw a wrench in it when they beat TCU. I mean, it's sort of a round robin, and you might have two losses on both the SEC and the Big 12 and go to the championship game.
Phil, your Texas A&M Aggies. Look, that was a weird one in Fayetteville the other night. They never, and this is what makes you kind of a good team that overcomes these things. I never really felt that game was in question, even though Arkansas kept kind of jumping back in. And if Talon Green ever gets some consistent coaching that he knows he's going to have a guy for a couple years, he's a weapon already, but man, the sky's the limit for his talent. He kind of single-handedly kept befuddling a really good A&M defense.
Paul, the last game that I coached at North Texas, we played Boise, and Caleb was the quarterback, and we led them at halftime, and it was a game down to the wire, and he was the difference. He ran. Dirk Cotter was calling the plays. And he told me after the game, he said, Phil, Dirk had been the head coach at Boise, been the head coach at Arizona State. He said, that kid could have started anywhere I've ever been. And he was, he put on a show. And Mike Elko said after the game, he was angry. But I had told Colin Klein last week, I said, y'all are going to have to score because this quarterback, if he's on, is a problem. And I think Petrino's doing good things with him. But back to the Aggies, I'm just telling you right now, offensively, Colin is their run, their pass game is dangerous. The receivers they brought in, Concepcion and the kid from
Craver
State.
Yeah, Craver.
Are outstanding. And Reuben Owens, the running back from El Campo, they didn't have their starter. He showed up. E.J. Smith came in and gave good effort and good plays. I'm just telling you now that if I'm a betting man, I think they can go to Baton Rouge and win.
Phil, I will ask you one more question, and I'm done. And we appreciate you as always. You look like you're doing well. The brace is off. That's great news,
I'm
too.
doing better. I'm starting to get a rebound.
Baylor loses at TCU. You've been a part of that. TCU used to beat Baylor when they you howl, but they do. But played very erratic. Defense was terrible. TCU ran the ball. They hadn't been running the ball. Ended up looking like it was closer than it was. How in the hell do you have a head coach as a defensive coordinator, and it seems like nothing has gotten better? Is it a scheme issue? Is it a talent issue? Or is it both?
The first thing I look at when I watch a game is how people line up. And I've told you this before. I don't like the way Baylor defends formations. It's all about numbers and angles. Now, I will say this. The long touchdown run that ended up being the difference in the game, the safety was unblocked. And if you look at that play, I saw it as soon as it happened. They were trying to crack him. He took his eyes off the runner and went straight to the blocker. He took himself out of the play. So that was a nice play. I think Randy Clements did a good job of helping them scheme some runs. I think it's a combination of what they're doing, and I don't see it as, I think they play hard. I just don't like the way they line up.
All right, I thought you handled it pretty well. They lose to Cincinnati, you would think. They could get drilled with that run game.
Yes.
And then they come back to UCF homecoming weekend, they might have half that stadium empty. The way there's apathy right now going on And you know that's
one
a bad
thing I'm
deal.
gonna say, when we played in the rain at TCU back in I guess 15, that stadium, I swear I could be dreaming, but it looked like there was an ass in every seat, and they weren't full either. So I don't know what's going on. The games aren't as big, but that was a hell of a game for a while, and the distraction of the delays, I think, affected Baylor more than it did TCU.
Yeah, and the fans.
Because they're the home team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You don't have to get in the car, drive home, or whatever. Right. Hey, great to see you without the neck brace.
All right,
Physical
guys,
therapy. Thank you, Coach. Yep.
Congratulations. What'd you hit?
I hit
7 iron?
I hit a cut 5 hybrid. I cut. It was 185
right.
up the hill.
It was the big uphill one.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Phil Bennett, longtime football coach with a lot of